Hey guys, my name is Ria, and thank you so much for watching Escaping Reality. My family on this channel has grown to about 1,200 subscribers, so thank you for engaging and subscribing and finding my content so relatable. Today is Holi today, and I am celebrating in Ireland. It's a working day, it's Monday for us, but happy Holi to everyone who is celebrating. I hope this year and this festival is, full of colors, happiness, and lots of great food. And today I actually wanted to talk about all questions related to visa. I wanted to go through the different stamps that we have in the country for people who come here to study, and then starting from stamp 2 that you get while you are studying up to like permanent residence. So I will break down each of these stamps and talk about how they work. And if you have any questions about, anything related to these, feel free to drop them in the comment section below and I will try to get back to you. So the first stamp that I wanted to talk today about is stamp 2, which you get here. This stamp is focused on, basically academics and studies, and it is only given to students who are enrolled in like full-time courses here, and they need to be in recognized institutions in Ireland. And the stamp allows them to study and reside in Ireland for the duration of their course. So I think this is very important that this stamp is mainly for students, and it is mainly meant to, it is focused on studies and not so much working. So that's why there are some restrictions on the stamp when it comes to work. So part-time work is allowed on the stamp, but you are only permitted 20 hours during a week where you are studying. So say you have a normal semester going on, you don't have any vacation and stuff. So in a week, you are only permitted to work 20 hours. And that is because the stamp focuses on, studying and not so much that you should be able to, work full time, 40 hours, like, people who are on another stamp. So I think this is very important because when you are applying for the visa of the country, they want to see that you have sufficient funds and you will be able to sustain yourself even if you're just working 20 hours a week. So obviously you won't earn as much as someone who is, working 40 hours a week, but you should have enough funds to cover your rent. So I think someone asked me in the comments below, like, can I sustain myself on 20 hours of working, like alongside my academics? The answer is no. So say if you're even earning 12 euros an hour and you're only working 20 hours a week, that is not enough to cover your rent and food and utilities and everything. So you need to show that you have enough funds in your home country when you're coming here, because on stamp 2 you have that restriction. But during holidays and when your camp semester is not going on, you can work 40 hours a week. So that is a good thing. Then you can also get internship opportunities on the stamp. So a lot of people have like internships during their course and stuff. So there they are, able to work, but there are some restrictions that your university or the employer may have in terms of your working hour. And you get stamp 2 for the duration of your academic course. So if you're doing an undergraduate program for 3 years or 4 years, or if you're doing a master's program for 1 year or 2 years, so that restriction will apply, that you will be on stamp 2 for the duration of the course. And yeah, this is basically mainly that you have limited work opportunities here and you need to be holding stamp 2 while you are studying. So you have to ensure that you are, getting your stamp mode and stuff like that. You are keeping in mind the expiry and then, following the guidelines that the stamp requires. Also for stamp 2, if you have any dependents, so say you are coming here with a partner or children or parents and stuff, you cannot bring them on stamp 2. They will have to basically apply for their own visas and get their own stamps. So that process is different, but I'm here mainly talking about individuals and like how they can like move to the country to study and what stamp they will be eligible for. So if you are interested in knowing more about how to bring dependents here, I would definitely go online and search more about that. The next stamp that we have is stamp 1G. So stamp 1G is granted to people who have finished their academic course and held a stamp 2 recently and now have, finished, graduated, etc. and now moved to stamp 1G where they can legally look for full-time job opportunities in the country. So stamp 1G is granted for 12 months, I think, for undergraduate programs, and then for 12 months and another 12 months, so 24 months for people who have completed a master's degree from a third level graduate program, and this is subject to certain conditions. So on stamp 1G, you can work 40 hours a week. You are permitted to work in the state of Ireland, and you can also, obtain a work permit from your company. And in the first year, if your company is not willing to sponsor you in the country, you can officially join them and work them and negotiate your way through to get a proper work permit, which can be the stamp one, which is your critical skills employment permit, or a general work permit. So depending on what they offer, you can basically stay with the company for 1 year on the stamp 1G, and then ask them to change your stamp and through a work permit of either critical skills or general employment permit. And you can work 40 hours, as I mentioned, and you are not permitted to be self-employed under the stamp. So you cannot be like, the owner of a business and stuff. You are supposed to be employed by an employer, and you cannot establish or operate any business of your own. So that is the main criteria. And then you are supposed to get your stamp 1G renewed if it expires within 1 year. So I think this is basically the stamp that has attracted a lot of international students from countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc. Because after you finish your academic course, you have a period, a window where you can look for a job in the country, and you can apply for your stamp 1G, and then you can join a company, you can clear your probation, and then you can definitely negotiate for a different stamp. But for a lot of skills like which are like IT, health, etc., which are critical in the country, a lot of people spend very little time on stamp 1G, and then they automatically migrate to another stamp like 1 or 1G, um, based on like what the company is providing them. So the next type of visa that we have is stamp 1, which is basically granted to you when your employer applies for your work permit. So there are two kinds of work permits in Ireland. One is the general work permit, and then there is a critical skills work permit. So when you are deciding to come to Ireland to study and to work, it is very important to see which one where do you fall in the general employment permit or the critical skills work permit, because that has a huge advantage in terms of your employability, getting a good job. Then you can also negotiate with a company to sponsor you, because when you have a something related to a critical skill, that makes it easier to negotiate with employers, because they are kind of looking for that talent and they want to fill in that role quickly, and they have more willingness to provide you with a work permit, pay for the cost of the work permit to get you a critical skill visa as opposed to a general work permit. So there are different kind of criterias that need to be met for both the general work permit and the critical skills work permit. So you or your employer can file for it, and then basically there is a threshold of a salary. So you have to have a minimum of 38,000 euros in salary per year to be eligible for a critical skills work permit. This is from 17 January 2024 that the minimum salary has been set, but it is going to change from January 2025. So if you are coming to study here this year and you plan to graduate by next year, I would recommend checking like what's the salary threshold, if it has gone up, so that when you're looking for a job, you know that the minimum salary is now well above this range. And you can basically, there are some criteria that the company or the employer has to meet, that 50% of the employees are Irish or European nationals, and like you cannot, Indian or any non-EA nationals cannot be more than 50% of the company's total employee ratio. So once you have your critical skills applied for by you or your company, usually the cost is around 1,000 euros. They need to give you a job offer of at least 2 years. So for the first year, you cannot leave the employer. You have to commit to them. You have to stay with them. And in the second year, if you find a better job offer and they are willing to apply for your critical skills, then basically you can switch. And then also you have to meet the criteria of staying with that employer that has paid for your critical skills to stay with them for another 1 year minimum. And yeah, they should have a job offer for you for at least 2 years or more, and then they can basically apply for it. So if you're in a big company, they usually have like companies that do it for them, like Deloitte, Fragment, etc. That like companies that do the whole process for you. They get you to fill the form and then you apply for it. And once the work permit is granted, it comes down to you to apply for the renewal of your residence permit, which will say that it's a stamp one, etc., etc. So I think this is the main criteria for critical skills, and this is definitely the more valuable work permit, I think, in my opinion. I'm not saying general work permit is not as good, but critical skills is a better one, because after spending 2 years on critical skill, you can move to stamp 4, which is permanent residency. So you don't have to, you don't need a work permit from an employer to work for them, and you can like switch jobs without like having to worry about that 1 year criteria that you have to stay with them. So stamp 4 is definitely an ideal position to be in. And if you get a critical skills visa sooner, so say you skip the stamp 1G phase because immediately after your graduation you got a critical skills visa, so in 2 years time you'll be able to move to like a stamp 4, which is definitely highly valuable. The next kind of work permit that we have is the general work permit. So this a broader range of jobs under it. So sometimes people are not in fields and stuff. They are in different kind of fields, so they can like fall under the general work permit category. So the criteria for a general work permit is that your annual remuneration should be at least 34,000. So that is basically what your contract should say, and basically your employer needs to provide a proper description of your role and stuff like that. And most jobs do fall under general employment permit. So most critical skills jobs are also, they can choose to apply for general employment permit if they like, but the ideal goal is to get a critical skills visa. And the employer has to ensure that the 50-50 ratio is being met here also, that not more than 50% of the employees should be non-EAA nationals. So like Indians and Pakistanis, Bangladeshis and other countries, like the maximum should be like 50% of all employees. So they want to ensure that people from Europe and European Union are also getting a fair chance in those companies to be hired. And they basically have to apply for the employment permit again for you. The process is more or less the same. And once you have the general employment permit, you again have to stay with the company for at least 1 year, and you cannot change your job. And after that you can definitely look for more opportunities, and if they're willing to apply for a different kind of work permit for you, then you can switch to that. So basically after you get either of the work permit, then it's on you to apply for your visa, which will be the stamp 1 visa, and you have to get it renewed to basically be able to work with that employment permit. So the cost of the general employment permit is 500 euros for an employment period of 6 months or less, and 1,000 for an employment period for 6 months up to 24 months duration. So it's different, and then you have to get the visa renewed or the employment permit renewed, and then again your company has to bear the cost of the renewal of the employment permit once it expires. And these costs are separate from what you pay for the residence permit. So that's a different cost altogether. So that is something that you have to pay. I remember it to be 300 euros. So that is something you have to pay, but you can get your company to reimburse it for you also. Then finally, we have stamp 4, which indicates that a person no longer requires an employment permit to work with a company or stay in the country. And this is a very good stamp, because then it gives you the freedom and mobility to switch jobs or even start your business. So under stamp 4 you are allowed to start your own business if that is something that is a goal of yours. And it also offers long term residence. So if you have held a critical skills visa for 2 years, as I mentioned, you will reach stamp 4. But on a general work permit, you need to spend 5 years on that work permit to apply to stamp 4. So I think the goal is to get to stamp 4 as soon as you can after you finish your course. And the shortest route is having a critical skills visa for 2 years. So I think these are the main stamps that I wanted to talk about. There are definitely more stamps, and you can refer to the immigration permission and stamps website under the immigration service delivery. So I will link that in the caption below. You should also look at the list of eligible and occupations that fall under critical skills and what falls under general work permit. Before you move here, I would definitely recommend understanding all these stamps that work and how they work, and then keeping a track of all the dates you are, because if your end goal is naturalization and getting the passport, then you need to have all these stamps and like information really like organized. And this is a mistake that I made, where I did not plan so far ahead, and now I have like a few missing dates and stuff. So I want to like highly recommend that people really keep a track of like the day they enter the country, the day they got their stamp 2, stamp 1G, etc., etc., and then all the way to like stamp 4, so that you are able to start the process smoothly and don't have any missing documents or dates in the middle. So Yeah, I think this is all information that has been up in the air. People want to find out more. Once you are employed and you're working and stuff, these things become more clear. But don't hesitate to talk to your HR or your peers and understand like how they are moving from different stamps. Look at the job market. Look at like, are people from your country getting sponsored and stuff like that within those companies. You can always ask. And sponsorship is one of the most important topics that come up during interviews and stuff. So sponsorship basically means work permits. So work permits are costs to the company, and when the market is down, sometimes companies are hesitant in like paying that extra cost of a work permit, or they want a person to start sooner. So that's why they sometimes don't want to go through the sponsorship route. So having these conversations early on can really save you the hassle, can help manage the stress and anxiety of looking for a job. It is also very difficult for people, like say you got a job offer, they offered you critical skills and you are on it, and you get a better job offer within the span of 1 year. A lot of people ask like, can I switch and stuff like that. Legally you cannot. You have to commit to that 1 year from the date of the employment permit to like from 1 year later. Like you cannot start. So before you accept a job offer and you take on a job and apply for your work permit, you need to be sure that you are willing to commit to that company for at least a year. And I think these are the main questions that keep coming up. It's like people want clarity. Everyone has gone through it here when you are studying, living, working here. So I hope you found this video of value. Please leave any questions, comments, etc. down in the comment section below, and I will try to get back to them. And if you have any more ideas on what kind of videos I should make, what kind of themes and topics I should talk about, please let me know. But anyway, happy Holi to everyone, and I will see you again the next time.